Hey there, fellow wanderers, and welcome back to the Wandering Gypsy RV Life podcast. I'm your host, Stan Cromlish, author of the Rolling Smooth RV book series, coming to you from somewhere out on the open road with my trusty companions, Bertie B and Rosie. This podcast is where the RV lifestyle meets real stories from the road, the lessons learned along the way, and conversations with people who live this life in their very own unique ways. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's see where the road takes us today. My guest today is Luke Branquinho, five-time PRCA Steer Wrestling World Champion. But we're not going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about rodeo and RV travel. But Luke, welcome. Give us a little introduction of who Luke Branquinho is.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Stan, first of all. Yeah, you nailed it. Five-time world champion, PRCA steer wrestler. It was a crazy life going up and down the road. Since then, retired for about 4 years now, due to injuries. Life on the rodeo trail can be pretty tough, from being in the arena. It's been a crazy blessed career. I've had a lot of fortunate wins and a lot of success, and all of those successes you added up with, I don't even know, I want to say millions of miles on the road, which sounds like a really big number, but anybody that's in an RV and knows how many miles you could put on in a day or a week or a month, you know that the miles on the asphalt, there's a lot of them. And I went 20 plus years of going up and down the road for at least 300 days out of the year. And it's been crazy busy. Since the retirement, I've had some other business ventures that have been fun, and I know we'll get into those as well.
Yes, sir. So what did a typical week going up and down the road? I'm sure you did 150,000 miles a year, but what was a typical week on the road for Luke Branquinho?
Yeah, you nailed it. I guarantee you we did over 150,000 a year, and it just depended on the season. I mean, in the wintertime, we would hit the road in January, and we'd spend a lot of time in Texas. We'd go down to the east, southeast, venture up to South Dakota in the wintertime for rodeos, which sounds crazy, but when they add the money, you got to go. You got to go try to win it. So the wintertime was busy, not quite as busy as the summer. The summer would get real crazy. We'd have about 2-3 weeks there where you would run one or two steers a day, maybe three, but you'd be in a different arena every time. So you'd get in your truck, run one in the morning, drive a few hours, go to the next one, and then drive a few more hours and go to the next one. And those seemed like days on end we would be doing those types of trips. And then the fall, was busy just as well, especially if a guy was struggling to make the national finals, because you were planes, trains, and automobiles to try to get to as many arenas and steers to run as you could.
Yeah, I mean, I look at rodeo today, and Rocker Steiner last year with his Hell on Wheels showing the big Prevost bus. I know that you didn't travel that way back in your day, but you were
No,
you were living quarters horse trailers, I'm sure. So
absolutely, yeah, and trying to find places to put your horses up and places to park your rig. It got tough.
the fans see you in the arena, but what fans rarely see are the overnight drives, the parking lots, the fairgrounds and the rodeo grounds, living out of trucks and trailers. And what were some of the logistics you had to do in order to be a five-time world champion on the
Yeah,
road?
just travel. Yeah, like you said, we were as many miles as you could imagine, pulling a living quarters horse trailer with a pickup truck. And usually we'd have about four guys in the rig, our buddy group of four, and four horses. That way we had two Hayes horses, two Bulloggan horses. And if we had to split up, send some way and some the other. But yeah, it was, I don't want to say it was a vacation because it wasn't. It was a job, but there was times where we did have a few days off and we'd try to get parked anywhere we could just to relax, let the horses relax, and I guess chill out for a couple days before we got busy again.
So, did it ever reach a point where the road itself started feeling like home?
Oh, it still does. Honestly, I mean, I get stir crazy when I'm at home now, even being retired like I am. When I get on the road to go up to Calgary to go do TV work, we'll get in the truck and we'll drive, and it feels comfortable because that's the life I lived for 20 plus years, and um I guess I would say my rookie year was 2000, and I always felt at home on the road. And anybody that travels as much as a rodeo cowboy understands that the people you meet in places that you've never been kind of become a family. I mean, we have this discussion all the time where, if I'm driving somewhere, if a rig's going somewhere and you break down, you can make a call. Somebody knows somebody where you're at in this industry, and you always have a helping hand if needed. And so that makes it nice. There's so many places I could recall where, we'd just pull in for a night or 2 nights. Well, they would have meals ready for us and pins ready for us. The tough part was when you needed a place to stay and couldn't find one.
Yes, I mean, I full-time RV, Luke, and, traveling from here, I'm headed to Wyoming in May to go fishing, but, you've got to find those connections. I rodeoed back in the '90s, I rode bareback horses, not very well, but but I tried.
But you did it. You
I
did it.
did it, yes. Um, I've talked with I've talked with Garrett Yerrigan, I've talked with Chick Wilfong, and those athletes, I've realized there's a lot of overlap between RV life and rodeo life. Different rigs, obviously,
Yeah.
but the same challenges on the road. So what are some of the similarities that you see between rodeo travel and RV travel?
Well, the price of gas doesn't change whether you're driving an RV or a rodeo rig. That's tanks drink it down. But the similarities are we're all out there, we're all on the road, trying to find places to yeah, and especially earlier in our career. I talked about places we'd stop in at people's houses, but like I said, there was times where it was heck to find camps that one would take horses or living quarters horse trailer RV lots and parks like that. And even some of the places we pull into a Walmart parking lot, I'd see a lot of RVs parked out in our Walmart parking lot because it was just hard to find a spot. And I think those are some of the similarities, just the difficulty of finding areas to travel to and put up for a night and all that.
And there are in the living quarters horse trailers, they're running the same systems that my RV's running. But while you were running up and down the road, did you think about tire pressure monitoring, and truck and trailer maintenance, that sort of thing?
Absolutely, yeah. That if you don't have a rig that's running tip top shape, you may not get to the next rodeo. So you have to think about that, and servicing the trucks, the vehicles, the trailers, especially the axles. People don't, they take for granted that those bearings, they need to be greased, not just once, maybe twice a year, and make sure as many miles as you're going, how hot the weather gets. Like I said, in the summertime, we're traveling in some of the hottest areas in the country, and it takes a toll on all that stuff. So yeah, you have to make sure your vehicle's in tip top shape, or you may get turned out of the next one. And it goes all the way down to coolant levels that people don't realize. They just wait for the light to come on in the truck, and you better be on top of that stuff.
Right. So did you run like a tire pressure monitoring system? I've got one in my rig that tells me the tire temperature and the current tire pressure. Did you run that when you
No,
were going?
not and back when I started, we didn't have that. They didn't have the monitors that would go on the excuse me, that would go on the trailers. We would stop about every time we'd fill up. We'd kick the tires, check the pressure. We had the old school, pressure gauge, and check them that way. Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't beyond us to have two or three spares just because you never know. And that was a hard lesson we learned. We had two blowouts on one side of the trailer. Well, we only had one spare. So from that point on, I'd always have, the spare tire on the rack, and then one or two up in the hay pod or up in the hay rack. But yeah, I think the luxuries of life now on the road are a little better than they were when I first started, with all those systems that can help monitor, your tire pressure, your tire temperature, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it saved me about a year ago when I had a brake dragging on the car I tow behind my motorhome. And it showed me that the temperature was up above 150. And I said, I maybe should pull over and see what's going on. And it was sure enough a brake dragging on my Chevrolet Equinox.
Wow. Yeah,
Uh,
just and that alone, what it saved you in repairs because you didn't let it get to the point of no return.
No, yeah, the point of no return is you gotta replace the brakes, the rotors, the tires, and everything, and, yeah,
Yep.
let's not go there. Uh, so, were you ever worried about water on the road, like, in your trailer that for drinking and that sort of thing? There's all these water filters out there now. I'm sure back in your day, you didn't do water filtration, you just took what was available.
Yeah, no, we didn't worry about water for drinking. For us, we want to make sure the horses had the right type of water for sure. We can go into the gas station, get a case of water or for ourselves. And then for our showering, it didn't matter much. We just put all that whatever water was at the RV parks or at the rodeo arenas, and we'd fill up with that to take our showers. But yeah, water is crucial for a lot of different reasons, as you know, but mainly for us, primarily for the horses to make sure they were, well hydrated.
Right. And I read somewhere that you were going to Lexington again this year for the American. Hauling your horse up there for the American.
Yeah, I'm heading back up. So I said I was retired. I came out of retirement last year and ran, I think, 5 steers in competition at the American. I went to the Vegas regional finals and won good there, and then went on to the American, and I won the Friday, which was the regional contender finals, and then ran one at the American itself on Saturday. And yeah, this year I jumped a couple more steers after the national finals in December, and I thought I still feel pretty good. Maybe I'll crack back out. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot 1st of April and go to the Lexington, which is the Eastern Regionals, and hopefully again on to Arlington for the American.
Great. Great. So what have you learned about keeping your equipment road ready with all the miles you've put on in your rodeo career?
I think you just have to pay attention to everything every day. For us, there really wasn't a downtime. So when the national finals got over, we were still rodeoing for the next season. So we were still hauling. But then when we went out, come up to Denver in the winter, come out to Texas, or you need to make sure everything was winterized so you didn't break any lines or crack anything. We did have a thing happen where our water heater had water in it we didn't realize, and it froze and it broke, and we had to replace that. And anybody that has an RV probably has experienced something along those lines. But making darn sure that you keep everything in order, for especially for the weather you're going into.
So, what advice do you have for up and coming rodeo cowboys who are going to be hitting the road and traveling like you did? What advice do you have for them to set up their rigs? What do they need to look for, pay attention to?
Yeah, it's a tough road, so you gotta get something that you feel comfortable in. For me, I wanted to make sure I had enough room to keep myself closed off for privacy, but also make my traveling partners comfortable. So getting yourself the right rig for that is crucial. Something that is going to be reliable. This rodeoing business, it's tough, it's expensive, and if you don't have something reliable, like I said before, it's hard to get to the next one and win if you're always broke down trying to fix something. And paying attention, you have to pay attention to your rig, just like we do with our horses. It's a very important tool that you use to get there, and you have to pay attention and make sure everything is where it needs to be to get you there. And as far as advice goes, just be smart. Don't treat it like it's just another toy. It's what you make your livelihood with. It's what you do your business with. So treat it accordingly.
Exactly. So we're now tell me, I heard about your RV Connect app. Do I have the name right from the Let's Freaking Rodeo podcast?
Yeah, that's right. So Casey Field and I, along with Peyton McIntyre, another good friend that's rodeoed, and Shad Field, which is Casey's brother, you know, and to go a little bit before that, Casey started Payment Cowboys, which is credit card processing merchant services, and we've helped a lot of companies out in the Western industry and beyond save money and simplify solutions. Well, we were talking to some RV parks, and they're like, "Man, we'd love to, but the company we're with, we can't integrate on the backside with Payment Cowboys to process our credit cards. So I was sitting there thinking, Peyton and I were at a rodeo, a high school rodeo for my son, and I was thinking, I was like, why can't we just build an app? Build a management platform. And Peyton, he is our tech guy. He builds websites. That's what he does for a living when he's not rodeoing. He's like, yeah, we could do that. So we pulled some money together and we built RV Connect, and we're in the ground stages right now. We have some great company or great RV lots with us that are on board, and they love it. They're building with us, which is nice. But it's really cool because we could take our experience from being on the road, and not only like Casey just in his camper or his RV going to an RV park, but me with my living quarters and horse trailer, finding a spot that we could put horses up for a night. So we kind of merged all that together, and we're trying to build this really cool RV Connect management software where people can get on board. They could look at everything they need to see. Okay, this fits us here. And it's been a learning process. It really has. Making sure we stay in touch with what the RV parks or RV lots need. I'm sorry, RV people need as far as 50 amp, 30 amp, pull through, back in, length, width, all of this stuff that, as a rodeo cowboy, you don't even care. You just give me that spot, plug in, I'm good to go. But accommodating the RV users along with the rodeo cowboys to get their stalls, their horses, and everything put up. And like I said, I think we've onboarded close to 20 parks now that are they either long term or short term don't have horse stalls. And then we have several that have horse pens and stalls with the RV lots on them as well. So it's been really fun, really exciting. If you guys know anybody, it's really easy. Just Luke at rvconnect.app and our .us and send us an email and we'll get you guys set up.
Great. I am here at Kickback Ranch and Event Center here in Raymer, Alabama. Jerry Todd, longtime PRCA rodeo announcer, and his wife Mindy owned this RV park, and she said, when you talk to Luke, ask him how I get involved with it. So I will definitely have her reach out to you, Luke.
Yeah, that's great. And really it's been funny enough, kind of word of mouth and knowing connections, people we've met on the rodeo trail that we've been working with. And it is a fun for me experience to be able to go out with people that either know of my career, know what I've done, making a call and say, we love what you're doing. Again, it's as simple as Luke at rvconnect.us. I think
Right.
it is what I said before, but yeah, send them my way, and we'd love to try to accommodate. And one thing about us is, we want to try to help everybody. We're not just for the big guys; we're for the little guys as well, and make everybody successful in what they're trying to do.
So next week, I am headed to the Family RV Association's International Convention in Perry, Georgia. There will be about 1,200 of my closest RV friends there next week with a whole bunch of vendors and seminars and that sort of thing. Um, do you foresee RV Connect showing up at some of those types of events?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had that discussion on our teams calls. We need to get involved. We need to get out there and do that and get to those shows to help people understand who we are and what we are and what we're capable of. Things like that are huge. I think we need to get there. I don't know that we're going to be there next week. We're not quite ready for that,
No.
but yes, we will be making an appearance at multiple shows throughout the coming months.
Like, yeah, and probably more in 2027 once you've gotten
Yes.
some of the bugs worked out. So it
Yeah.
sounds like the problem you were trying to solve with it was having a single location for folks to be able to find where to park their RVs, where to stable their horses when they're in a specific area of the country, like Cheyenne at Frontier Days or
Right.
Calgary during the Stampede. Um, is your target our it I'm sorry, is your target audience for the app more rodeo cowboys or RV travelers or a combination thereof?
Oh, absolutely a combination of thereof. We want to help accommodate everybody. Through our platform, you have the ability to, for the horse goers, when you pick your RV spot, or if you don't have an RV, you just have a trailer, a stock trailer. You're able to go in, pick your stalls. These are the ones I want. Set it up, and we're going to become native here in the next few months, which I think will be big for geo mapping. So it'll be able to show you exactly where your spot is, exactly where your stalls are. So yeah, we want to accommodate everybody, not just the rodeo cowboys, although that is dear to our heart for obvious reasons.
Right.
So there's so many possibilities and options with RV Connect that we feel is going to really help. I don't want to say revolutionize, but just streamline a lot of the process for folks to go on, get their spots, get their stalls. Yeah, the option of also any of these parks that have uh, golf cart rentals, kayaks, boat slips. We have the ability to do all of that all through the one app.
Great. I use an app called RV Life Trip Wizard to do my trip planning, but
Hmm.
then you have to go to the individual campgrounds to make your reservation. It sure is going to be cool when RV Connect is out there. I plan my trip in Trip Wizard, then I just go to RV Connect and set up all my reservations in one spot. That would be fantastic.
And that you mentioned that is something we're looking to do, is integrating that trip planner into our platform. So you map out your trip, and then your first spot, it'll give you these RV parks. Your second spot will give you these RV parks. So what we're trying to accomplish is maybe you don't have to go from trip planner to the RV Connect. It's all right there in front of you.
That would be fantastic for somebody who is a full-time RVer in my 36-foot motorhome.
Right. Absolutely.
So lost my train of thought. After all the miles and rodeos, what has life on the road taught you that people who stay in one place might never experience?
I think, like I said, just people you meet. If you're in one spot, you may not meet certain people in your life that could have an impact. And when we traveled as much as we do, like I said, I have friends through about all 50 states because we've traveled to all 50 states. Acquaintances, people that would help you out in a drop of a hat, business partners, people that we've met, through the traveling. That, hey, let's maybe try to work a deal here, because they see value in our industry. And I think mainly just the people you meet and the hands you get to shake that you never would have got to shake if you stayed in one spot.
So, what are some of your favorite rodeo towns, Luke?
Oh boy, some of my favorite rodeo towns. That's a tough one, but St. Paul, Oregon. Always loved that little town. A huge rodeo over the 4th of July, but a small little quiet town when the rodeo's not there. Um, Houston's always a great one. Big city, big lights, big rodeo. Pendleton, Oregon's another one. there's so many of them. Deadwood, South Dakota, a great little town with a rodeo. Man, you got me not stumped, but there's just so many of them out there. It's hard to go through them all.
So, what was your hardest drive between rodeos? Picturing Panoka to Calgary or Cheyenne to Panoka and those long drives. What was your most difficult drive?
Oh, I just told this story the other day. We were up at Lovington, New Mexico in the night performance, and the guys I was with, Jason Miller and a couple others, they had to fly to, I believe it was Sikeston, Missouri. No, I'm sorry, they drove to Sikeston, Missouri. So I left Lovington, New Mexico, let's just say 8 o'clock at night, and I pulled into Belgrade, Montana at 5 o'clock that afternoon and the next afternoon, and it was straight through. I was by myself. I had 4 horses, and it was probably one of the hardest drives that I ever had to do. We were actually up at Omak, Washington the next morning. So we went 8 o'clock one night to Belgrade, Montana, that next 5 o'clock later afternoon, and then on to Omak, Washington the next morning. Fortunately, when I got to Belgrade, they went from Sikeston back to Belgrade, met me there. I got in the trailer and I didn't wake up until we were in Omak the next morning. But that was a tough one. And as a rodeo cowboy, you have several like that. But other tough drives, I wasn't actually going to a rodeo, but I left Houston and went straight home. And I've done that multiple times just because I needed to get back to the house.
Yeah, I was reading or I saw something last week. I think you mentioned it. Ty Harris running back and forth from from San Antonio to Tucson and back to
Yep.
make sure he ran all his calves.
Yeah,
Oh,
we've done that fast, and it used to be you'd go San Angelo, San Antonio, back to San Angelo short round, San Antonio short round, and in between there you go to Tucson for the slack. And if you did good at Tucson, the short round was Sunday. So they used to have a Saturday afternoon short round at San Angelo, Saturday night short round at San Antonio, Tucson Sunday, and that was a trip we've done quite a few times. Which it's a great trip to have to do because that means you're winning.
yes, and winning is the ultimate goal because it's
Absolutely,
money won at the end of the year that gets you to the NFR.
that's
Um,
correct.
so best food found on the road. I know Texas barbecue is great, but I'm sure you have your spot.
You know, when I was younger, it used to be the Flying J burritos because I was a young kid, kind of broke, and you can get two for like $2 or something like that. Yeah, and then it got to be Texas Roadhouse. We loved the honey butter and the rolls that Texas Roadhouse had. And, the older I got, I felt like I started thinking I need to not eat a little better, but enjoy it a little better. So,
Right.
we'd pick, I hate to say Olive Garden, but, it's Texas Roadhouse, Olive Garden, and Denny's. And I'll be honest with you, I love a Waffle House. I do love a Waffle House.
So do you get your hash browns scattered, smothered, and covered?
I get them with cheese and ham. I think that's smothered and chunked, maybe, or
Yes.
covered and chunked. I can't remember, but yeah, I do love a Waffle House.
So to close this out, where can people find Luke Branquinho? I know he's on the Cowboy channel for Rodeo Live. But where can they find you, Luke?
Yeah, so like I said, since I retired, I have a lot of different ventures going, and one of them, other than the RV Connect app, is the Luke Branquinho show, which I started about 2.5 years ago. My partner Bob Sullivan, he's been really good at pushing this out, and we're on the Cowboy channel with that. We're on YouTube, any podcast platforms. Again, it's just the Luke Branquinho show. We talk about we talk with everybody. We've talked with actors. We talk with sports, NFL Super Bowl champions, rodeo athletes, and just business people. And it's kind of a fun show because you don't realize what a lot of other people's lives entail until you get to listen to it. And me, as a guy that's always been out on the road, hearing the stories of guys I've competed with, and cowgirls that are out there when I was, and actors and sports figures. It's a fun, for me, it's a fun show just to learn more about other people and what they're doing. So that's another way you could find me, the Luke Branquinho Show. We're in 38 different markets across the United States. So I never thought I'd be a television person, but here we are doing a show. And then Cowboy Channel with Rodeo Live and commentary and doing all that stuff's been fun. And then we also another company that you could find me at is Lazy T Ranch Beef Jerky. This company they're so awesome. They're great people. We're looking to start a rodeo team, and actually we're putting it together with some very heavy hitters in the industry. And it's been a fun venture. And like I said, if you guys want to order some jerky, you can go to Lazy T Ranch and put in code Luke10 and you get 10% off. And it's Wyoming raised beef, all natural. I mean, as healthy as you can get it. So there's so many things that my retirement has brought with it.
So, are you busier now than you were when you rodeo?
Yeah, definitely busy. With the kids' sports, my oldest son is a steer wrestler, and he actually just won the Texas Region 10 for the state and going to state finals. And he's a junior this year, so we're busy with that, and very proud of him. He's really worked his butt off to accomplish that, and it's been fun to be on the Hazen side and watching him accomplish that as well. And then baseball with our middle son Jameson and Bear, they're all into sports. So on top of that, I have the Lazy T Ranch Jerky, the Payment Cowboys credit card processing, RV Connect, the Luke Branquinho Show. We're launching a tequila this summer, so we're kind of busy with that. And I'm definitely more busy now, I think, than I was when I was rodeoing.
So, I'm gonna have to pick up. I'm a beef jerky fan. I've tried it all, so I'll have to pick up some Lazy T Ranch beef jerky.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, punch in Luke 10 and you'll get you 10% off. So that's been a fun adventure too. I mean, I never thought everything I'm doing, I never thought I'd be doing anything other than steer wrestling. So I never thought my brain worked in any other way than throwing steers down. But yeah, here we are.
Well, I mean, you throw them down pretty quick. 5-time PRCA World Champion steer wrestler.
Yes,
But
sir.
where can people find the RV Connect app? Is there a website out there yet?
Yep, it's rvconnect.us. So get on rvconnect.us and it'll take you right to it. Like I said, we've onboarded a handful now and more in the process. We should have close to 30 by the middle of the month. And we're just growing. We're keeping going and again, just building it to be better. We're not going to quit. We're not just going to make a product and say, here it is. If a lot reaches out to us, say, hey, if you tweak this or tweak that, we're a small company, but we're very in touch with what customers need, which I think is important. When you call customer service, you get a hold of a guy that you can talk to.
Good, good. So many companies out there. That's something they forget. Customer service has to be first and foremost in any mobile app or reservation app, whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about us is we do the processing. We take all the payments, and then when the reservation, the cancellation date's passed, you get your money, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. We handle the chargebacks, and that's been a thing that a lot of these lots have kind of been curious about, and they've really accepted it and received it really well. So many features and opportunities with RV Connect, and we're just looking forward to keep growing and continuing to make it better.
Great. So social media, I know you're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So
Yes, Luke
let's go through
Branquinho.
the whole gamut one more time.
Yeah, it's like I said, you can find Luke Branquinho Show on YouTube or any podcast platform, also on the Cowboy Channel. And then social media is real simple. It's Luke Branquinho. That's it. I don't have anything, no official side of or anything like that. It's just my name, and it's as simple as can be. But
All
yeah,
right.
we had YouTube, um, Instagram, Facebook. I don't do any of the TikTok or Snapchat or any of that. I'm not quite young enough for that. And minimal on Twitter or X now, but Instagram and Facebook are the two best ways to look me up.
Yeah, I think I'm about 15 years older than you, Luke. So I know I'm not young enough for TikTok either. But thank you so much for coming on to the Wandering Gypsy RV Life podcast.
Stan, I can't thank you enough. Anytime somebody like yourself wants to come up and help support and promote a retired cowboy, I'm honored to be on the show.
Great. Thank you for riding along with me today for this episode of the Wandering Gypsy RV Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with a fellow traveler so more folks can find us out here on the road. You can find more stories, photos, and adventures over at wanderinggypsyrvlife.com. If you're looking for gear that helps keep your rig running right, check out Techno RV through my affiliate link at technorv.com. They really do help you adventure more and worry less. And if you enjoy cowboy storytelling and rodeo history, my good friend Doug Simcox hosts a great podcast called Beyond the Chutes, which is well worth a listen at beyondthechutes.show. If you'd like to dive deeper into the mindset behind this lifestyle, you can check out the Rolling Smooth RV book series at wanderinggypsyrvlife.com/rolling smooth. Until next time, keep your rig rolling smooth, keep your coffee hot, and remember, sometimes the best repair isn't just the one that fixes your RV. It's the one that quiets your mind. Safe travels, my friends. And remember, not all who wander are lost.